Set Phasers, a highly illogical Star Trek podcast.
Welcome to Set Phasers. Hello, Akie.
Hello, Steph. Here we are. I'm grooving. I'm hanging. I'm just like chilling here. Oh, I'm on vacation in the mirror universe.
Mirror Akie with his
That's
t-shirt
right.
on.
No bow tie. I'm just hanging out, just drinking drinks on the beach.
You got an umbrella in your drink, in your tea
I'm
this evening.
Evil me. Oh, I don't want to work.
Oh, you crazy, crazy cat.
Yes, indeed. Welcome back to another episode of Set Phasers. It is Stardate 10828.8. And we will be covering today episodes 11 and 12 of Season 1 of Star Trek Discovery. Those are respectively great titles of these episodes. The Wolf Inside and Vaulting Ambition.
And so much happens in these episodes.
So much, it's mind-boggling. It's kind of like head-spinningly. So much is revealed.
I'm so glad I have you to help me through this.
I'm so glad that we have each other.
Indeed.
Okay, should we?
Should we? I think we should.
It's time to run it down.
Can you run it down for me? What just happened? Can you run it down for me?
Oh, yes.
All the fun stuff.
Okay, so before we get into it, just a reminder that at the end of the last episode, we found out that we were in the mirror universe, initially established in the original series. I think in season 2.
Yes.
An episode called Mirror.
Mirror.
Yes.
Mirror.
Okay. Yes.
It's very hard to say.
Mirror.
Mirror.
Come on down to Mirror.
I had a friend at school who couldn't say that. She would say "mer." I think it's an Irish thing. Mer.
Look.
Mirror.
You know my Irish accent is terrible. Look in the mirror. Yesterday, I thought I had a pretty good Scottish one, but I am embarrassed to run it by you. Anyway, okay. So we're in the mirror universe. It's established in several series. It's where people have mustaches and goatees and they're evil everything. And instead of Starfleet, there's the Terran Empire, and it is ruled by a mysterious despotic emperor. And it's sort of fascist, and they've got the high fashion and the boots and the epaulets and everything is very so that's where we find ourselves. So let's just jump right in. Episode 11, The Wolf Inside. We begin. They're doing some repairs on the Discovery, which is all jacked up. There's someone doing repairs in like a darkened airlock, and they step out and they hear somebody saying strange words, and we come across in like an abandoned hallway Lieutenant Paul Stamets holding the body of his partner Hugh, who is dead. Dr. Culbert.
He died.
He died. He had his neck snapped by Ash Tyler right before he jumped off the ship, and we sort of know something's going on with Tyler, some sort of brainwashing that happened because of the Klingons and L'Rell, but we haven't quite gotten to the bottom of it. Anyways, he says the forest is dark, but I can see him through the trees, and that's just creepy.
There's a lot of mystical stuff going on there.
Like, dark forest, the trees, and see him. Who's him? So we cut to the Shenzhou. Michael has gone undercover with Lorca and Tyler, pretending to be themselves from this mirror universe. So she's pretending to be evil. She's taken over the captaincy of the Shenzhou, and she's in her quarters. They're very sumptuous. There's like a bathtub in them bad boys, and she's kind of like, she's not doing a captain's log, but it's basically a captain's log style thing.
In her head.
We're seeing her interaction with the crew and how weird it feels to be the captain in this Terran empire, and she's sort of questioning whether she can hold on to her Starfleet ideals, and that's sort of the battle against
And
the
not
wolf
lose
inside,
herself.
you might say. Not lose herself, indeed. One of the interesting things is that although this Kelpian doesn't have a name, Kelpians are basically slaves in this Terran empire. And it's definitely played by Doug Jones. But when she says, "What's your name?" he says, "A slave has no name." Which is so. Anyway, I was like, "Oh, that's Doug Jones for sure, though, man. I see him, and he's in the suit." And after like seeing, she watches some dissenters get executed, and they just get transported into space to freeze to death. Yeah,
They do.
It's terrifying. You hit him with the for death. Yeah. Death transport. So we find out. So eventually, it's her and Tyler in the bed. As you may recall, at the end of the last episode, things got a little steamy. I have to adjust my glasses. That's how steamy they got. Between her and Tyler, there was some on-getting that got on, and so they're lying in bed in a state of relative déjà vu, if you pardon
little
my
embrace.
way.
A lover's
And,
embrace.
A lover's embrace, engaging in some pillow talk. And that's what this monologue has been. And Tyler commiserates with her, and he calls her his tether. He says, "You bring me back." You may remember from earlier episodes, Tyler was dealing with some sort of he's been having this like breaks where he loses time, and then he realizes like, oh, he broke a glass, or he spaced out and wasn't in control of a ship. And maybe that's what happened when he snapped Dr. Culbert's neck or something. Maybe. Culber. Anyway, so he's saying, "You bring me back." So I guess he's sort of like appointing Michael as his tether to reality. So they're fighting through this weird thing. And anyway, a Kelpian comes in with some food, and they like all get all weird and stuff. And she's like, "Go check on our prisoner." And the Kelpian has to like I don't know. It's so weird. But then she gets a call from the disco, and they're kind of like going back and forth. Michael explains that she's been having trouble getting past the firewall to get the information that they need on the Defiant in order to find the way to get back to their home universe. And she asks how things are going on the ship, and they say, well, Stamets is still out of commission after that weird jump, but they don't tell her about Dr. Culber having been killed. And then they, Saru says, "I'm just so curious. Have you run into any Kelpians there?" And Michael's like, no. Because I guess she didn't want to go into it. So
But she
that
had a
gives us,
Kelpian slave on the
yeah,
ship.
she literally has a Kelpian slave attendant that feeds her and bathes her. So on the disco, Sylvia, Tilly, and Saru are basically trying to figure out how to get Stamets back in order, because if they can't get this information on the Defiant, they're going to have Stamets get the spore drive working. And so Tilly is basically like, "Listen, this is not a medical problem. This is a spore drive problem. So I think you should let me work on it." And so Saru's like, "Okay, we can do that. We'll see how that goes." Meanwhile, on the Shenzhou, Michael gets a missive from the flagship of the Imperium. Captain Maddox tells her that they've found out the hiding place of the rebel contingent, and one of their main leaders, what is he called? The Firewolf, a Klingon called the Firewolf. And they say, "We found the base, and we just want you to fly in there and just blow it up." And she goes, "Okay." And then when she hangs up the call, her people are like, "Okay, we got the targeting things all lined up. Are you ready to blow these people?" And she's like, "No, you don't anticipate what I say." She kind of like over the top bluffs, and she's like, "I'm going to go down there, and I'm going to get the information we need to end this war once and for all." And they're like, "What?" And she's like, "Yeah, that's right." Anyway, so she tricks him, and she's like, "I'll go to the surface, and I'll figure it out." And that's when we hit the credits. Boom, 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 boom. Credits. Michael goes to talk to Lorca after the credits, and she's sort of like, "This is the situation. Do I have to kill all these thousands of, rebels?" And he's like, "You got to do it. Otherwise we'll never get back. You got to stay undercover." And she's like, she says basically, "There's got to be another way. I refuse to lose the part of me that is Starfleet just to survive. Otherwise, survival is pointless. And so she goes, I will find another way. And Lorca advises her, okay, if you're going to do it, then you got to figure out, you and Tyler go down. Don't bring anyone else. And you do what you need to do. Negotiate with the wolf. Meanwhile, Tilly and Saru have got Stamets in the like mushroom chamber, and they're doing the spore thing to him. And basically the thinking is that by putting him, the spore network is inside his mind. It's so weird and complicated the way they try to describe this, but basically the spores have taken over the part of his mind that's like that is like his frontal lobes, and the synapses are firing in ways that can't be measured because they're not just firing on his mind, they're firing like interdimensionally. And so they're like, his brain is inside the mycelial network, so we need to put him inside the so that he can get, anyway, so whatever, Starfleet jargon, but it's great. And they put him in the thing, and he starts to react to it, and they're feeling happy about that. But then, just jumping ahead, because this is the rundown, he has like a cardiac arrest or something, and they freak out, and they have to put like the paddles on him and stuff. And Tilly gets pretty worried, although she feels confident that she's doing the right thing, that there's more brain activity.
She says, I'm the most qualified person with the spore drive, and this is a spore issue.
This is a spore issue. That's right. Tilly, don't be silly. Sometimes Tilly, don't be silly. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. Oh, wait.
Tilly, don't be silly. Tilly, space is wide.
Space is wide.
Clearly, it gets chilly. Tilly, it's your time.
This is Tilly time. Because she is trying to save the day. Meanwhile, Michael and Tyler go down to the planet. It's like a rock blasted landscape, and they're fired upon immediately, but Michael stops Tyler from returning fire, and they are like surrounded by these rebels who are like was sort of described, but now we get to see it in this episode. It's Andorians, Vulcans, Klingons, and maybe there's one more that I'm forgetting.
Oh, I didn't remember.
Andorians, Vulcans, and Klingons, which is already pretty exceptional. That might be it for this alliance.
I did find it amusing that the Andorians didn't get a new look. The Vulcans got a new look, but it was like, cool, there's your regular Andorian.
They're like, you guys remember Shan from Enterprise?
Yeah.
We're just going to go with that. Same makeup.
So, yeah.
He says like one or two words. He's like, we don't trust her or whatever. But I don't know. I like the Andorians, and I really love them in Enterprise. And I know that's sacrilegious to say that I loved anything about Enterprise, but I stand by it. Anyway, she says, listen, I'm here to negotiate. I need to talk to the one you call the Fire Wolf, and we're here against our Emperor's orders to negotiate, and we can help each other. And so they take their weapons, and they take them to see the Fire Wolf. And who should be the Fire Wolf but it's Volk! The torchbearer himself, Volk, with his beautiful, weird alabaster limestone gray ashen skin. He's not quite as eloquent, but he still is commanding, right? He still has like this charisma to him.
Yeah, you're right.
And were you gonna say
I
something?
thought he sounded different. Like in English, it seemed like, rather than speaking in Klingon, he spoke in English. And you're like, oh, it takes away something from
There's
him
something
there.
beautiful about the Klingon.
Yeah.
Hey, you don't have to tell me twice.
I know.
I love me some Klingon.
Maktashaja.
Look at you. That's not too bad. You added one
Did
syllable.
I add a
Yeah.
Maktashaja?
That's it.
Maktashaja.
Maktashaja. Anyway, he's sort of like, hi, I am Volk. And you're like, nah. But I did wonder, I know we talked about this before, like, is that Tyler in the suit?
I didn't
Was
think we
he-
did talk
was he
about it, but
being
I
Volk?
guess it must be.
This must be a thing we've just talked about.
Because he's had his...
Amongst ourselves.
Or we must have just... In a mirror universe, we did this.
That's right.
Yeah. But he was... I think that's when he has his moment of like, oh, what's going on? And has his PTSD stress out because he's like meeting himself. Like, that sort of the time travel thing where you meet yourself.
Yeah, you shouldn't meet yourself. And he's like partially him and partially not him. Also, this Voke is like very about, he's like, I'm a Klingon, I'm about honor, but it's also about the honor of us joined together in order to have freedom for all species, to throw off the oppressor of the Terrans, which is counter to the rhetoric of T'Kuvma and Voke in the main universe. And so every time Voke here, every time the Fire Wolf says something, we hear like a Voke or T'Kuvma version of that. That's sort of the opposite. He's like, we got to get together, and then T'Kuvma's like, remain Klingon. And he's like, we got to do this, and he's like, I'll never do that. And so while Michael is like, anyway, so this is Tyler's doing this in the background as Michael is negotiating, and they say, we don't know if we can trust a Terran ever, but we'll bring out the Prophet. And who should be the Prophet but...
Oh, wait, sorry, I'm totally paying attention.
The Prophet. A Prophet is Sarek.
Yeah.
As an aside.
With his evil goatee.
He's got an evil goatee, which I loved because that's such a throwback to the TOS.
Yeah.
You're evil. Yeah. Vulcan with a goatee, and he's like a weirdly religious, the Prophet, and he mind melts with Michael, and he sort of learns that she's not from here or this universe, but that she can be trusted. And maybe he gleans a little bit that what their relationship is in the other universe. And so he vouches for her. And so she says, listen, I'm going to let you guys get out of here. You got to move quick. I'm going to give you an hour. All I ask is that you trade me some information and you guys get out of here. And then I'm going to blow up the ship, but I need to make it look good, And then she's also like questioning Vogue about how does he get his Klingon philosophy to work in a way that is cooperative, because she thinks bringing that back to the Federation could be the end of the war, a cultural denouement to aggression, which honestly, I think it's overlooked when we watch these episodes that Michael divines that possibly the best thing they can get out of this mirror universe is finding a way to cease conflict with the Klingons. But whatever, people are so like, Discovery's so dark and so sad and so dark and evil, and all they do is kill each other and betray each other. But Starfleet comes shining through. Why am I here? I'm sorry. I took an excursion.
You're having
into
fun.
Kapla Corner. I apologize. Yeah. And no one is arguing with me, but I decided to have an argument. So they agree. And then Tyler freaks out and he starts speaking in Klingon, and he's like, Klingon Machtadaj, and he starts fighting with Voke, and they have like a full-on battle, and he loses.
Yep.
Which is good because he was shooting to kill, and Voke is like too honorable to kill him, which is like, nice. This is real Klingon stuff right here. He bests him, and then he's on the ground, and he's got the Klingon dagger, and he throws it down.
Yeah.
Like he's going to throw it into, but it throws it into the ground next to his head, and he's like, you must leave now. And Michael's like, I'm sorry about him. He's against my wishes. He's doing that. And so, she's livid with him, but they manage to make it work. She gets a little packet of information, and he's like, this won't be relevant by the time we work it out. Now get out of here before things go bad. They walk out of the tent, and they transport up. And then they get back to the Shenzhou, and I turn my page over, and they immediately go back to her quarters, and Michael's like, you got to tell me what is going on, because this is no longer cool. Do not like it. And he's sort of like, brainwashing. It's not just brainwashing. Because she says they brainwash you. And he goes, it's not just brainwashing. I feel like he's inside of me, the wolf inside. And she's like, what? They just met with the fire wolf, the wolf inside. I mean, the writing. Mm-hmm. Guys, I just want to, if you are a writer on Star Trek Discovery and you're watching or listening to this for some unknown reason, I applaud you.
For the writing, not for listening to the show.
You know what?
But
I applaud
also
you.
both.
Yeah, no, thank you for listening. But I applaud you for killing the game.
Yeah.
Okay, let me get back into this.
Hashtag nailing it. Hashtag Vulcan moments.
Hashtag Vulcan moments. Yes, hashtag set phasers. Tyler basically explains that he's like remembering that they like created him, and they're getting weird flashbacks. And then at some point, he just like clicks. He clicks out of Tyler and into Volk completely. And Michael sees it, and then he sees Michael, and he remembers that she's the one who killed Takuma as Volk. He no longer has the feelings of Ash Tyler. And he therefore attacks Michael. He's like, you killed my mentor, and now I will destroy you. And so he's literally killing her. Managed to get to like knock her phaser aside. He's choking her. He's like showing no pity. It's like, total dead face. And then just before it's lights out, a Kelpian just rips him and throws him like halfway across the room. Kelpians are strong, apparently.
Mm-hmm.
Hello.
They are.
And then the Kelpian is like, he was trying to attack the captain, and they drag Tyler off. And she's like, on
she has
the
to
ground.
Snap out of it
Michael
quickly.
has to snap out of it because she has to be a Terran. So he's like, ugh. And and actually her first officer is like, we're gonna kill him right away. And Michael's like, yeah, I guess so. So they're gonna execute Tyler, and she's got an explanation, but it's not a great explanation, and it's kind of screwed up. And he tried to kill her. We go back to the disco now after Stamets had his cardiac arrest. He's in basically a kind of a coma. But according to Tilly's instruments, there's something going on in his mind. And we zoom into the mind, and then we find, boom, Paul Stamets is inside the mycelial network in these like neon spores. And he turns around and he's talking to somebody, and who should he be talking to but another Paul Stamets?
Oh, yep, I'm totally.
A Terran Paul Stamets, who's got the whole weird Imperial thing on, and he's like, I wondered when you'd get here. So that's like just a dun 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 left hanging in this episode. We go to Tyler's execution, and Michael goes up to him and says, do you have any last words? Anything you want to say? He basically does not. He says he starts popping off in the mouth. Michael punches him in the gut.
Yep.
Boom. Which I don't know if this was like a cover up for the thing that she winds up putting on his person, or if she did that some other way, because they don't really.
I think she must have
clear.
done it then.
Obviously, she's just
because
so good.
That's the sort of sucker punch, and then like sticks the
So that he
data
didn't
in
even
his
know.
in his cargo pants pocket or whatever
Yeah, it's
that
like
was.
his like lower phaser, his like phaser pistol pocket or something on his kneecap. So they jettison him out and bounce, and Tyler's floating in space. It looks like he's dying, but then
2 seconds.
as he's
Can
starting
only
to
have been a
freeze,
second or two. Yeah.
Disco picks him up, and he's in like the transporter room, and Saru is there, but they know somehow Michael got the information out, so there must have been some sort of secret communique, and they know that he's got the information from the firewall, which they're not going to crack, and they send him to the brig. And so Michael goes to talk to Lorca towards the end of the episode, and she's like, I don't know if I'm going to get through. And he's like, you got to. I trust you. I know you're going to get us through this. I have utter faith in you. And as that's happening, a new ship appears. It still hasn't been an hour, so the rebel encampment has not escaped. A new ship appears, locks targets, and fires on the rebel base, just summarily. And Michael's like, who is it? Who is it? Who is it? That's right. Yeah. And then after that's done, there's an incoming message from the ship, and it's the Emperor. And when the Emperor shows up, it is none other than Philippa Giorgio! And that is the end of episode 11.
I am stunned how quickly you went through that.
That's right. Whew, I am sweating a little bit. I'm going to do my customary drink break here for a second.
Please do.
Wow, so much. You would think, okay, episode 11 was crazy. Giorgio's the Emperor. Volk is Tyler. Tyler is Volk. Stamets is talking to Stamets.
With himself.
Yeah, Stamets is with himself, who's his other self. And what? So we start episode 12, Vaulting Ambition. Probably going to be like a fun holodeck episode, right? Like, okay, that was crazy. Now Sherlock Holmes is on the loose.
If we only had fun holodeck episodes in Discovery.
Like,
we don't,
oops.
sadly.
Yeah, this is a weird one where we have to solve a crime. Or yeah, there's a lounge singer who's our best friend. All right.
Let's watch that.
And
Combine ours. 1110101
100100100. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Well,
The fact you know that, I'm in awe.
Yes. Okay.
I may have watched that after we spoke about it,
Uh-huh.
but we can go back and do it again.
I knew it. No, it's all right. It's fine. It's fine.
I didn't watch the We'll Always Have Paris. I like that one.
That one? Yeah, we're watching that together. Don't watch that without me.
I'm not watching that without you.
That's like a classic.
That is a classic Picard episode. Anyway, sorry.
Yeah,
We
that's all
digress.
right. That's fine. We digress because we can. This is the moment we can. It'll make it easier if we do all our digressions in the middle for the editing later.
Yep, just chop from here.
Yeah. And all right, and we're back. Okay, episode 12 of Star Trek Discovery, Vaulting Ambition, begins on a shuttle. It's Michael and Lorca, and they are flying in a shuttle, and they're headed from the Shenzhou to the Imperial flagship, which I believe is called, well, they call it the Charon. It's a hard C. I wrote that down, but I've always pronounced that Sharon.
Let's go with Sharon, I think, because Sharon to me just sort of sounds like someone you know down the pub.
Oh, I know Sharon down the pub. Yeah,
What?
you're trying to fool me into doing my Scottish accent, but I'm not going to fall for it.
Yes.
Well, I only know because Sharon,
Sharon.
or no, stop. Because Sharon, or Karen, depending on how you want to pronounce it, is the Greek god who is the boatman who ferries you across the river Styx from the land of purgatory into the land of the dead.
Lots of Greek mythology in Star Trek. Discovery.
Yeah, well, it seems like this is because the Terrans are tyranny. You're going to be
Right.
all about their whole Terran thing. So it's a cool little reference if you're a super duper nerd and you know that kind of thing. Also, Sharon is the name of Pluto, the dwarf planet's moon, which is basically the same size as Pluto. Again,
Was Pluto the one that got demoted? I forget.
That's right, to dwarf planet, from planet
Yes.
to dwarf planet. Because its moon, well, for many reasons, but also one of them is its moon is so big. Its moon is the same size as it. Okay. And the moon's name is Charon. Anyway, here's the Imperial ship. It's crazy. It looks like all of Las Vegas in space with a sun underneath it. It's bonkers. Charon. Anyway, Michael and Lorca have to go there because Michael has been summoned by the Emperor, who we now know is Emperor Giorgio.
Indeed.
And this was the quote that I was talking about earlier. I just love that Lorca's trying to talk her. He's like, "Hey man, don't worry about it." And he goes like, "Your Giorgio is dead. This is a ghost." And Michael's response is, "Haven't you ever been afraid of ghosts?" Which I just thought was ominous. And that's basically where we go to the credits. So it's a great boom, cold open. We're about to enter this weird casino complex, floating palace in the sky with a sun underneath it. Welcome to the Terran Empire and mofos. Meanwhile, on Disco, Stamets is sort of recovering from the coma, but not really. He's stable. And as Saru and Tilly are talking about it, Saru is called away for a medical emergency. And as that happens, we go into Stamets' mind, and it's Stamets talking to Stamets, and we realize that there's two Stametses here. And because I like to take very copious notes, I call one T-Stam, and I call one Stam. T-Stam is the Terran Stamets, and Stam or Stamets is the regular Stamets. So from here on out, T-Stam,
Terran
evil
Stamets.
Stamets. Yes, exactly.
Okay.
Terran Stamets. Okay. So Stamets is talking to T-Stam, and he's like, "Hey, man, I've been waiting for you. I've been lost in here because I was doing the same experiments on my ship, and I'm also in a coma, and I've been stuck in the mycelial network for who knows how long. It's been too long. And so I was trying to reach out to you when you were connecting to the network, and I was sending you images of where I was. I was trying to show you the ship, and I was trying to show you, what I remembered from my thing." And that, that sort of explains the whole thing when he's like, "Oh, it's no wonder I was seeing images of palaces and Tilly as a captain and blah, 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 blah," because it was T-Stam sending messages to Stamets that were like, "This is my world. You must come talk to me." Anyway, now they're both stuck in there because they're both too dedicated to their science in different ways, and they both wound up inside the mycelial network. And T-Stam, they have to he's like, you have to help us figure a way to get out of here. They're chased at one point by some kind of weird entity coming down the hallway.
Yeah.
They're in Discovery, but it's like a mycelial, it's like a holodeck episode. Hey,
Yeah, kind of.
what do you get? Evil
They get
holodeck
stuck in a
episode.
yeah.
Mycelial holodeck episode, and there's something corrupted inside of the mycelial network. They have to run away from it, and they get to their thing, and they're working on stuff, and
Culber.
yes. Oh yeah, I'm gonna jump ahead to that. Yeah. So while they're working on and talking, and Culber shows up in his full white, doctor suit,
Medical
and he
uniform,
goes,
yeah.
Paul, and then just walks out the door. And so Stamets runs after him because he's like, oh my God, Paul. He's running. And the other T-Stam is like, no, what are you doing? Don't get distracted. You have work to do. Ah. So they're on a chase. Merry chase through the mycelial network, evil holodeck. Meanwhile, on Charon. Fine. I'll call it Charon. We are treated to an imperial audience with Giorgio. And if you don't mind, if we have a little time, I'd like to read off her titles here.
Please do. I quite
Okay.
enjoyed that.
Her Most Imperial Majesty, Mother of the Fatherland, Overlord of Vulcan, Dominus of Kronos, Regina Andor, all hail the Emperor, Philippa, Giorgio, Augustus, Iaponius, Centarius. Good Lord. And it is Giorgio, but in super duper finer. He's got oh, come on.
Is that me?
No, it's me.
Okay.
Sometimes people honk
Yeah, I mean,
and they just go crazy. There's
Yeah.
no light here. It's a stop sign, so take it easy. Okay. She's there in her imperial finery. She has the high collar and everything, a cape. She has a scepter. Her makeup is super high end. It's great. I love it, but it's
and the
so
haircut
intense.
as well.
The
It's
haircut is super
yeah.
badass. Yeah. And she's very haughty. And everyone bows after she's
Oh, you mean
announced.
haughty, not
Haughty.
hottie.
She's very,
hey.
very haughty. Yes. I don't know. This is like a
No,
New
it's
York
probably like an
versus-
American versus
Yeah.
British thing.
Yes. She's
And
very,
I'm like, oh, you said hottie like I do.
she's very haughty. No, she's
Feel like
very
she's hot. She's
haughty.
hottie.
Well, she's looking great in all her finery. She looks like an emblem of excess and totalitarianism. But, George is looking good. It's great to see her again. I've missed her
Yeah.
at this point. And I think Michael feels the same way. In any case, she walks up with her prisoner, Lorca. I can do a quick recap. Basically, in their realm, Lorca was trying to overthrow the Emperor, and Michael was a favored captain of the Emperor, and so she went after Lorca. Lorca killed her. Apparently, people think he killed her, and then Lorca was on the run, and so Michael and Lorca from our universe, or the main universe, are pretending to be those two, and she's pretending that she hunted him down instead of revealing that she was alive until she could find him and bring him to justice. So that's why they're there. There's some bowing. Giorgio asks Mike to pick one. And Michael looks, and there's 3 Kelpians dressed in drab rags, and she's like,
Yeah.
And Giorgio's like, you know how to pick a good one. And Michael's like, okay, that one. And they go, okay, and that one walks off. And I think that one is Paul Jones again. Doug Jones again.
I didn't think so. I thought the one next to him was Doug Jones. Now you've got me saying it.
Yeah, no. Well, Paul
It
Stamets,
wasn't
Doug
because
Jones.
the one next to the one that she picked was taller, and I thought
Yes,
that looked
that
much
might
more
be
like
right.
Doug Jones. But then I also got confused because I thought Doug Jones already was the Kelpian, like her Kelpian slave.
Yeah, I thought they were just throwing him in wherever.
Unless they just sure.
They were like, it's cool. She's whatever it is. She's seeing Saru everywhere. So the Kelpian walks away. Lorca is brought before the Emperor. He talks a little bit of smack. She grabs her scepter and bangs him upside the head, and then says basically that he will be.
That he will be.
Well, you didn't hear the horn?
I did,
just
but if
stopped.
you just say that he will be again, then I'll.
Yeah, of course. I'll do a pickup.
Yep.
That he will be tortured for the rest of an unnaturally long life because she wants to see him suffer. And there's a quote that I will bring up later at quotable moments time when I have to scramble for my papers that I throw.
I enjoy that.
I keep forgetting that I need to write the quote somewhere else. Whatever. And then Giorgio walks up to Michael and says, you've been away too long. And she calls her dear daughter as she embraces her. And she says, hey, we're going to go let her rest and then bring her to my chambers for some dinner tonight. So it's like, okay, it's a weird, I don't know, evil, haughty, but, and also vengeful against, Lorca, but she seems to like Michael. She's glad Michael's back, so maybe that's good. I don't know. At this point, we don't know what's going on. Meanwhile, on the disco, Tyler is being restrained. He's like half Vogue, half Tyler. He's like beating his head against things. He's freaking out. When he's lucid as Tyler, he asks Saru to help him. And when he's not, he's screaming about being a Vulcan and doing verses, and it's intense. Meanwhile, back on the Charon. Meanwhile, back on the Charon.
If you say Sharon, then I'm just going to go, I can't, because it's like, Sharon, all right, Sharon.
Nope. No,
all right, Sharon.
no. Oh, all right.
I'll have a Chardonnay.
All right. Okay. Charon. Meanwhile, back on the Charon, Lorca is thrown into an agonizer, and he is screaming his head off. While he's doing that, Giorgio and Michael are having like a lovely dinner. I love that juxtaposition because he's like, and they're like,
it's almost sort of classical music.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, and Michael's like, this food is delicious as always. And Giorgio says, yes, of course. Our chef always is one of the best at preparing Kelpian. And Michael's like, what? And at that moment, Giorgio takes a chopstick and she's like, here, have my ganglia. And she feeds Michael Kelpian ganglia.
And I thought it was funny because they were on chopsticks.
Yes. Well, it was perfect, but also awful. Yes.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Bit squiddy.
It's very squiddy. I mean, ganglia would be. Why wouldn't they be?
Of course.
That's what ganglia do. So anyway, threat ganglia are also like stir-fried ganglia. So they're eating Kelpian, and they're talking, and Michael's sort of playing the part. She's like, if you miss me, why don't you just tell me instead of beating around the bush? She's realizing she can kind of speak freely when there's just her and the Emperor. And then Giorgio reveals that, no, Michael didn't know the whole story, our Michael. That, in fact, what had happened was that the Michael and Lorca, T. Michael and T. Lorca, from the Terran universe, were conspiring together to overthrow her. Surprise, surprise. Can you hit me with a dun-dun-dun? Yes, they were conspiring together. Apparently, when Michael was brought to Giorgio as a young child, she was an infant, an orphan, and Lorca was a father figure.
So in Terran universe, rather than going to Sarek, she goes to Giorgio.
That's right. She goes to Giorgio, and her father figure, instead of being Sarek, is Lorca.
And
because
then it gets a bit creepy.
Yeah, I mean, I'm jumping around a little bit here, but essentially, it's revealed that Lorca and Michael were an item, and they were attempting to overthrow Giorgio. So the mother-daughter thing is just not flying, and Giorgio knows that, so she's been playing the part of Imperial Wrath, but she's actually much cleverer than we gave her credit for. Like the real Giorgio, she's no fool.
Nope.
Meanwhile, the Stametses are running around in Discovery and
in the mycelial network.
In the mycelial network's fake
Holodeck
version of Discovery because it
Discovery.
makes Stamets' mind comfortable. And Stamets follows Hugh into their room, and they talk, and he basically says, like, listen, I don't want to go back to life. I like it here, because he knows that Hugh is dead, but he sort of is denying it, and he was like, no, I'm dead. But I think this is all in Stamets' mind, so I think it's only because Stamets knows that he was dead that he knows that he was dead.
He's
or is it the
making this whole
mycelial
thing up
network
anyway.
talking to him? Who knows? It's crazy in there. But Hugh basically tells him like, "Hey, man, you have to get out of here. You got to fix the network. It's screwed up, and the reason it's screwed up is because of T-Stam. T-Stam, whatever his experiments were, are what messed up the mycelial network." And T-Stam was like knocking on the door, and Stamets basically is told by Hugh that he's got to like, what does he say? I have the actual quote. It's another forest thing. Oh, he says like find the opening in the forest. Damn, I wish I had so many notes. Okay. Anyway, back on the Sharon.
Sharon.
You're right. Meanwhile, back on the Charon, Giorgio is about to execute Michael because she's like, I know that you, whatever. And she has assembled all her lords, like 10 lords. And she asks Michael, do you have any last words? And Michael does have some last words. She's like, hey, I'm not from your universe. I'm from a different universe, a parallel universe. I come from the Federation of Planets. I'm here. I'm just trying to get out. And you need to let me go. And she says, I can prove it. And she still has Captain Giorgio's communicator badge. Yes, look at you. And
V6. I don't know anything about that. To me, sounded like a motorbike. Actually,
it is.
Yeah, but it's a good one.
I'm pretty sure. Yeah, it's running smooth. So she hands the communicator badge to Giorgio, and she's like, if you test this, you'll see that the quantum signature is from a different universe. It's subtle, but it's there. And so I'm not the Michael that betrayed you. I'm a different Michael altogether. We have never met before. Giorgio puts it on like a little pad, tests it, gets the quantum results. It's all like right by her little chair.
Yeah, of course. Why wouldn't it be?
Yeah, because she's not just the captain of a starship. She is the emperor of a star kingdom.
Vegas.
Yeah, she's in a big Vegas. So the captain's chair is like an uber captain's chair. Anyway, she realizes it, and Michael explains like, that's my Giorgio. She was my captain. We were close as well. And Giorgio says, what a quaint concept. Parallel universe. And she's deep in thought. She reaches down and picks up something, and she throws it. And it's like a throwing star, digital, super futuristic. Anyway, it goes through everybody's head. Everyone except Michael and Lord Ealing. So she kills 10 of her lords.
Were they lords of leaping? Or they were 12 lords of leaping?
They were collapsing. Because their brains were being...
10 lords collapsing.
10 lords collapsing, except Lord Ealing. So she kills everyone. She tells Lord Ealing, hey, clean this up and I won't kill you, and I'll make you the governor of Vulcan or Andor. I forget.
Andor, I believe.
Yeah, Andor. And then Giorgio goes to Michael. Oh, excuse me. The Emperor, Giorgio, goes to Michael and says, looking at the comm badge, this is from the United Federation of Planets, and apparently so are you. So she knows about the parallel universe, well, which I guess makes sense because of the Defiant, which, as we discussed in the last episode, in the future of the main thing gets lost in the past of the thing that they're in now. It's too complicated. Don't worry about it. Anyway, they know about the Defiant in the mirror universe. Back on Disco, Saru is approaching Laurel because he needs help taking care of what's going on with Ash, and it's freaking everyone out. And he asks Laurel, he's like, listen, what did you do to him? And she's like, she's doing great. She's like a prisoner, and she's like meditating with her facing the wall, like not even looking at it. And Saru brings food, and she's like, you must want something. And he's like, I need you to help me, whatever you did to him. And she explains what they did to Tyler and Vok. It makes very little sense. She says Tyler was their prisoner, and they took his DNA and rebuilt him. Can you hear that? Whatever that is. Someone's like banging on a bucket.
It's very faint.
Listeners, someone's banging on a bucket.
Does it sound like this?
Yes. Only it's from outside.
I don't need digital sound effects.
3 stories down. But whatever. Yeah, it must be a very large cup, is what I'm saying. Yes, she says they took the original Tyler captive, used his DNA to remake him or something, and restructured his memories, like recreated him. But then they, quote, grafted the psyche of Voke into him. So it's really Voke inside of Tyler's body and psyche. It's still confusing what's happening.
Flashes of organs being like
did they
singed together.
Yeah, they like stitch / brainwash, body wash. Who knows? So anyway, that's what's happening. Yeah. So Laurel's like, hey, and he did it for the cause. There's a great quote, which I will do in quotable moments, but she's like, if he's suffering now, he knew what he was up for. That's what you do when you're a soldier. And so, no, I will not help you fix him. And she's like, this is war. And she, without even taking the food, just goes back to sit on her bench in meditation. It's a pretty badass scene for Laurel. I wish that we had theme music for Laurel because I forgot how badass she is when she wants to be badass. Anyway.
Well, you've got time. You've got time, Akie. You can
I do have time. You know, piano's right here. So back on Charon, Michael is like talking to Giorgio. Now that it's just the two of them. She's like, you need to free my captain. Because of, so this actually happened before it's revealed that whatever. She's like, you should free Lorca because he's not from your universe either. We're just trying to get out of here. We wanted to get the Defiant data so that we could find the place that's interphasic space, which is how the Defiant got into the mirror universe and back. And Georgia says, like, what are you, insane? They came here through interphasic space and it drove the whole crew crazy and they killed each other, like tore themselves apart. You can't go through interphasic space. You won't survive. She's like, how did you get here? And Michael tells her straight up, we used an interdimensional spore drive. And George is like, okay, I'll let you go. I'll give you your freedom if you give me the like plans for your drive. Everybody wants the Discovery spore drive. The belle of the ball. And there's some discussion. Are we invoking Voke? Gabriel, I see you. And I appreciate you. Klingon Maktajash. That's when she really discovers that that Lorca. Oh yes, Giorgio's like, Lorca, whether he's your Lorca or in the other universe, my Lorca was treacherous. If I'm as intelligent as the Giorgio from your universe and you're as steadfast as the Michael from my universe, then your Lorca is also an evil Lorca. He's conniving and evil because the way he turned you against me was saying that you were destined to be together and blah, blah, blah. So we get another scene of descriptions of things that happened in one place and them happening in a similar way in the main universe. And it's all the times that Lorca was like, oh, big universe out there. And somehow we were pulled together. He's like, yeah, I find you. I knew that you could do it. I trust you. All this stuff that he's like been talking to Michael this whole time. And apparently it's the same thing that the Lorca here did to turn the Michael to treason. And so George is not really convinced that they should release Lorca. And she's like, you should trust me. I'm a woman of my word, just like the Giorgio on your planet. So give me the schematics and I'll let you go free. And so Michael communicates with Saru and says, you should come meet us. Because that's the only way we're going to get out of here. Meanwhile, I got lost in my notes. Oh, yeah. This is when Saru comes back. Meanwhile, on Disco. Saru comes back
on Disco.
Meanwhile, last week on Disco. Saru comes back and he's like, hey, you're still not going to help? He shows her a picture of Tyler had like gotten free of his bonds and like tried to rip his heart out of his chest or something. It was like really rough. And she's like, I'm still not going to help. And he goes, okay. And then he transports Tyler's like limp body, no life support or anything, just like, passed out into the cell with Laurel because he's like, I think you care about him and I think you'll help us. And he goes, this is war. Saru, coming into your own. I love it. So she says like, yes, this can be reversed, but only by my hands.
I can do it.
Yes, she says but it can be undone, but only my hands can tend to him. Yes. Okay, things are coming to a crux here. I got to bring both papers out because this is where it gets crazy. Stamets is talking to Hugh. Hugh is like, you need to get out there. T-Stam is knocking on the door. This is in the mycelial network. He says, you got to save us. You're the only one who can do it. Follow the music. Look for the clearing in the forest. And then he says, all you have to do, you're in a coma on the ship. All you have to do is open your eyes. And so he does. But both Stametses wake up. Stamets wakes up on the Sharon, and Stamets wakes up on Discovery, and he's like, we got to get some stuff done. So that's another hanging thread. Stamets always leaving us with the hanging threads. Meanwhile, on Charon. Lorca is in the Agonizer, and Captain, whose name I just forgot, I wrote it down, but he's the one that runs the... it's on the floor over there.
Oh dear. The one you take your time. You mean the guy?
Yeah, I wrote down his name, and I remember being like, you should make sure that you don't forget Captain Maddox.
Was it? That sounds familiar. Oh, Maddox. That's
Maddox
because it's
is
in
the
Picard.
captain of the. Oh yeah, but Captain Maddox is the captain of the flagship.
Right,
so
right.
it's the Emperor ship, but I think it's Maddox. So he comes in and he's like, "Get out of here! I want to talk to this guy." And apparently, he has some unfinished business with Lorca, something about his sister. Maybe Lorca left her for dead or something. Anyway, Lorca's like, "This sounds personal." He's like, "Damn right, it's personal." And so Lorca's like, he's like, what did you do with my sister? And Lorca's like, he's like kind of backpedaling, being, keeping his cover. I did something to her. I don't know. And they say like, they pull out like this thing and they're like, we're going to kill one of your crewmates from the Buran. So they drag in this kid and he's like, it's Lorca. He thinks he's seeing the captain, Lorca, who led him in the rebellion. And they're like, it's weird. Maddox just wants like revenge. He just wants Lorca to say the name of the sister that he left for dead, maybe, or something. We're never really clear on what happened with the sister. He's like, say her name or we're going to kill this guy. And to all intents and purposes, how the hell would Lorca from the main universe know the name of this guy's sister? He just knows that he's a badass. So he just kind of doesn't. And they wind up killing that cadet. And it's like, hit him with the thing and he like explodes in blood and guts. And then Captain Maddox really starts losing it, and he's like turning the Agonizer way up. Anyway, while that's happening, on the disco, at the same time, a different kind of agony is taking place. L'Rell has some sort of laser gloves on, and she's like laser gloving. It's really weird. No questions asked. Whatever. Where did she get the laser gloves from?
I mean, I wasn't. It was.
She replicated them. She was like, I know exactly what I need.
But like, it was like wee gloves or something, and then she just sort of stuck her hands on his head and then like pulled
like,
Voke from him.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah,
what?
totally. Yeah, don't worry about it.
Okay.
So she laser brained his head with her laser fingers, and Tyler's like bloop, 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 saying a lot of stuff in Klingon. And then he's saying stuff in English, and it's the whole mother give me water, sister hide me, brother hold me. I forget what it was. And I didn't write it down because he didn't say it all in Klingon, but I will some other time. I'll probably put it on a t-shirt because it's great. And in the end, L'Rell does the Klingon death scream. She goes, "Roar."
And at that point, we're meant to think, okay, Voke has died.
Voke has died. She's pulled
She has
Voke
released him.
She's pulled the psyche that was grafted into Tyler of Voke out of him with her laser hooks.
Fingers.
Yep. Sure.
Okay.
So now, the final scenes. Two things are happening at once. Michael is talking to the Emperor, and the Captain Maddox is like, go freaking out on Lorca. He's like turning the Agonizer way up, and eventually Lorca basically just passes out. And at the same time, Giorgio is really explaining exactly how Lorca's treachery worked in their universe, in turning Michael against her. Their Michael, the T Michael, against Giorgio. And at that point, the ship passes by a sun or something, I don't know. Georgia's looking out the window.
Oh, it's the sun from underneath the ship, isn't it?
Oh, yeah, it's the sun that the ship travels on.
The Vegas ship thing.
Yep, there's a
with its
sun
big
under
sun.
it. Whatever. I guess it's sort of like a fusion core. I'm not going to explain it, but I will think about it nonstop.
Google it later.
And so the light catches her eye, and Georgiou reveals that she's sensitive to light. Hit me with a dun dun dun. And Michael's like, you're sensitive to light? And Georgiou says, yes, it's the only significant biological difference between your human species and my human species.
Also
And she's
indicating that she knows,
Yes.
again, that there's, there's another
that there's a difference, that
universe.
she's aware of the other universe. At the same time, Lorca, who, note to self, very sensitive eyes to light, but he says it happened in the Boron accident. Something happened to his eyes. He passes out. Maddox pulls him out of the tube, and he's like, don't you down me. I want to make you suffer even more. I'm going to kill you myself. And then as he's doing that, Lorca's like, no, you're not. And he like, boop, and he chokes the guy to death with like a phone cord or something.
Isn't it the paddles? Why
It's
would I think it's paddles?
yes, it's the paddles that you use to revive someone, but the connecting thing is like the old school
Yep.
phone cords. And so he chokes him to death, and he's like, he's basically about to die, and that's when we realize Michael has the realization, like, your eyes are sensitive. My Lorca is not my Lorca. He's your Lorca, and he's been using me this whole time to get to Captain Georgiou. And at that moment, Lorca gets up and he says to Captain Maddox, her name was Ava, but someone better came along. The end. Vaulting ambition.
Yeah.
Whew, what a vacation we have had here in the Mirror Universe, and it's not nearly over. Oh my goodness. I'm so twisted up, I forgot what we do next. Oh, stats. There's no real...
Do we have stats?
No, there's no real stats. There's no set phasers. This is all topsy-turvy. We could do a stat of how many times...
How many dun-dun-duns we had, maybe?
Yeah,
How many
dun-dun-duns.
did we
I
have?
don't know. I think I wrote that we would have 6 or 7, but I think it might have been 6.
Hardly feels worth it.
It's true. Well, you know what? Would be worth it. Hit him with one more dun-dun-dun, please. Vaulting
No
ambition.
Still fun.
Yeah, it's great. Star Trek Discovery is great. Everything about this is great, and I've had the time of my life, and I think it's time for quotable moments.
Oh, do you? Let's see. Quotable moments.
Oh, thank you, Mrs. Potts. Okay. I have a couple, which I referenced earlier, but I will just do the ones that I really loved so that we don't have to spend forever here living inside my head. I really loved where the title of episode 12 gets its title when Lorca is brought before Georgiou, the emperor, for the first time, and talks a bunch of smack, and she hits him in the head. She says to him, your life will be long, Gabriel, and every single moment of it will be spent in our agonizers, a fair price to pay for your vaulting ambition. That's multiple quotements. Thank you. I have a slightly, I can see what people are writing now, which is great.
That was from Sky.
Sky wrote multiple quotements, which I also, who doesn't love a spoonerism? Okay. And I love this thing when Saru is asking L'Rell for help, getting Ash Tyler back. She basically says, listen, we set this all up so that folk could figure this out, and Saru doesn't really understand. And she says, listen, we grafted his psyche into the body that we recreated from the captured DNA of the guy, and we reconstructed the memories. And in so doing, that's when the quote begins, Volk has given his body and soul for our ideology. If he suffers for that choice, so be it. He accepted that suffering in order to best the enemy. That is what it means to be a soldier. That is war.
It's a good one.
That's pretty great. That's like real nice, you really get to peer into the mind of Dare Klingons. And I think that's my only, those are the only really important quotes. The rest are in my notes, and you can never see them.
I feel like we should give them away at some point, Yes!
How's that?
Throne.
As soon as we stop, I clean them up, but it's fun to pretend that I'm that badass. All right. I think it's time to hit us with the
Amazing.
next time.
Let's do it. Where's my next time? Oh,
Next time on Set Phasers.
Oh, yes. We want to, next time. So these were episodes 10 and
no, it was 11 and 12.
11 and 12.
Yep.
And I think we're going to do 2 episodes next time, right? Are you down for that, Steph?
Yeah, I'm down for that. We've
All
got to
right,
catch
so-
up.
We have to catch up. We have so little time.
We have so little
before-
time.
Yes, before season 3 comes out, and we're all very excited about season 3. So, I don't know. We'll be doing 2 episodes next week. I did not look up the names of the episodes. We'll be doing episodes 13 and 14.
Yep.
Oh no, but I bet I remember them. First of all, episode 13 is the craziest episode, and it's called Past His Prologue. And episode 14 is...
Come on, extract it from your mind palace.
Is it like Latin? I can't remember. Or it's not like Take My Hand. No, that's the end of season 2. I can't remember. Can you Google it?
Yep. Discovery. Season
This is like a thing that I wish I knew.
14.
I think I know.
14. The War Without. The War
The
Within.
War Without. The Wolf Inside and The War Without. And episode 13 is...
No, the War Without. The War Within. No wolves.
Oh, The War Without, The War Within
Yeah.
is the full title. I did
That's
not
the
remember
title.
that. But episode 13 is Past His Prologue. Is that right?
What's past is prologue.
What's past is
What's
prologue.
past is prologue.
Yes. Well, that's the actual phrase. What's past is prologue. Anyway, those are 2. If you thought these episodes are crazy, oh boy.
It's just that, but our fans, our lovely viewers and listeners, have us to help them through it. These are some complicated episodes and themes,
Yeah.
and Akie breaks it down or runs it down
I run
rather
it.
nicely.
It's one of the only ways I ever run. So we'll see you next week for episodes 13 and 14. I'll be running. Thank you so much for joining us. If you enjoy the program, you can catch us every Friday at 8 p.m. Eastern on Facebook Live or as a podcast every Monday, wherever podcasts come from. Please subscribe.
Yep. We are on Facebook and the old Instagram, and I'm having fun sharing some interesting quotes and our favorite characters from various episodes. So please do join us there at Set Phasers Podcast and join in the conversation of all things Trek.
Yes, and if you want to support our continuing mission to discover what Discovery has in store for us, we'd only be delighted. You can patronize us, we can take it, by going to patreon.com/setphasers.
Until next time, I'm Steph Mans.
And I'm Akie Burmese, and this has been Set Phasers, a highly illogical Star Trek podcast.
Computer. End program. Oh, I need to hit stop.
No, let's never